Welcome everybody once again to a Safe Place podcast, and in this episode I'm going to talk about human nature characteristics or human nature traits that affect us and the world around us, which will lead me on to a little segment about narcissism and how incredibly we are all narcissistic. Now you're going to object to that, absolutely, and I don't blame you. No one likes to feel a sense of being insulted, but I urge you to stick around and listen to the human nature traits and then understand where I'm coming from with the idea of narcissistic personality, and see if you can get a deeper sense of what it is and ultimately how to feel better in the world around you. Are humans naturally good, or are we naturally evil? People have been asking this question for thousands of years, and the answer is still unclear. But we know more about human nature now than ever before. We make harsh assumptions. When someone does a bad thing, we assume that they're a bad person. But when we do the same thing, we believe our environment and blame that instead of ourselves. This is called actor-observer asymmetry, and it's a fundamental part of human nature. We make false attributions about others while cutting ourselves plenty of slack. We enjoy distress sometimes. Are humans cruel by nature? According to a 2000 study by Rudolph and others, humans relish the distress of other human beings, but only if we think they deserve it. Imagine a supervillain getting beaten up by a superhero. We enjoy watching this character suffer. Why? Because they did something bad. But what if the villain was attacking the hero? We judge that hero as morally good. Instead of pleasure, we feel a sense of anger or pain. So, yes, we do enjoy the suffering of others, but only if it's under the right circumstances. We ignore facts. What's the best way to make an argument? Most people would think facts and figures are the most compelling points out there to make. However, according to a study conducted by Moore and others, humans are too narrow-minded by nature. If someone presents us with sound evidence, we're likely to ignore the facts and stick to our original point of view. We are empathetic. Humans are predators, sitting at the top of the food chain. But does that mean that we're violent by nature? Our history is filled with bloodshed, cruelty and war. But one biological discovery proves that humans are built to help each other, not hurt each other. According to a 2015 study by Lam and Matrixx, the human brain contains mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are special nerve cells in the brain that instinctively act and when we share feelings with somebody else. Your mirror neurons connect you to the world around you. They create a complex emotion called empathy. While humans can learn to be violent, empathy is ingrained within our nature. We demand fairness. A 2008 study by Valdesola researched people that judge others. While they freely attack and shame other people for their mistakes, these people rarely pay any attention to their own issues. In other words, we expect the world to be fair, but we allow ourselves to be selfish. We hate being bored. Would you rather shock yourself or sit in 15 minutes in silence? In 2014, Wilson and others found that most people would rather shock themselves. By nature, humans search for any way to avoid being bored, even if that means hurting yourself in the process. We are overconfident. Are you smarter than the average person? Most people would probably say yes, but they're usually wrong. People who think they're smart are often the least intelligent. This bias is called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it's just one of the many different ways that humans overestimate their own capabilities. We do the same thing with morality, kindness, and trustworthiness. In other words, humans are overconfident by nature. We are attracted to darkness. Why do we fall for mysterious people? troubled and dangerous souls have long attracted people of all orientations. Think about traits like self-interest, insensitivity and impulsiveness. These traits are strongly associated to severe personality disorders, but they're also considered highly attractive. We're easily intimidated. Like many species, human leaders hold power through intimidation. Humans naturally surrender to and support individuals that scare or overpower them. Even if the leader isn't right for the job, they may intimidate their way to the top. We abuse anonymity. Have you ever wondered why so many mean comments are left online? When we know someone else is watching, we are more ethical. But when we are anonymous, we're more likely to betray our own values. Has your human nature ever gotten the best of you? Do you think humans are naturally good or naturally evil? I personally believe that humans are neither good nor evil. That what is the circumstance of human beings is human beings, as I am, are what we are. We don't judge the natural world around us. We don't judge wildlife by the way it acts. We just accept that it does what it does within its nature. But what we do with ourselves is we project a sense of good or bad on others. We categorise others by being completely unconscious about how those same processes or behaviours that exist in others are actually manifested perfectly well inside of ourselves, but we just can't see that. It's much easier to observe the behaviours of other human beings because we spend a lot of time looking outwards. Actually, what you learn is as you look inwards, you realise that the same prejudices that you condemn other people to have, the same judgments that you place upon other people are actually expressions of your own self. That we all have the tendency to do it. And that doesn't mean that we're bad. It actually means that these neurological, biological processes that make up human behaviour, human psychology, human emotion, the need to survive, dictate to us in our lives a lot of what we do. We are okay as we are. We are neither good nor evil. We can do good things or evil things, but that doesn't mean that we're either good or evil. Usually that when we look at it through the path of childhood development, all of these personality traits are developed through the child trying to survive in a world. The child trying to get the love and support and security from a good solid relationship with mum and dad. And what the child will do when it feels that that environment is fragile and is dependent upon a child to be a certain way to survive, i.e. a child has to be tough, strong and selfish to please mum and dad's agenda of feeling that that personality is going to lead to a better chance of that child surviving in the world. The child will grow up with those personality traits. And then as a culture, because we grew up with different personality traits, we then judge and condemn that adult for being, i.e. narcissistic. And the incredible thing is that the narcissism lies inside all of us. It's just that once again, it's easier for us to observe it inside somebody else rather than to look at the narcissistic personalities that exist within our own beings. The beautiful thing is about understanding these levels of psychology is that you grow up in a world where you judge people less and less, and you actually accept people more for who they are. Yes, you can navigate yourself through relationships with certain people based on personality traits that you see that will either benefit you or not, and choose to have friendships with the people that have personality traits that support you, and break connections with people that don't. But remember, what is that in of itself? It's a narcissistic part of you. I choose to only be around people that support me. The incredible thing is, as we learn more and more about narcissism, I see a world full of people that are just judging people that hurt them as narcissistic without realising that they are just as narcissistic. And that causes more suffering. Because if we are unconscious of the same fundamental human faculties that exist in others, that exist in ourselves, we're always going to suffer, because we're always going to feel like a victim. We're always going to feel like there's somebody out there who's the bad guy. And in fact, nobody out there is the bad guy. The bad guy is a projection of our own mental constructs and survival mechanisms that we've picked up as little kids, and that we expect that same internal world that we manifest to be the outside world manifesting it back to us. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. We have to let these old, and I hate to use the word ignorant, because ignorant is a word that sounds really bad, doesn't it? But ultimately what ignorance means is it's information that you don't have access to at this moment in time. And information is probably the most important thing that we can ever get our hands on. It can really wake us up to the world more around us. And a result of waking up to the world more around us, we feel better in that world. If we have these old belief systems that people are bad and that I'm a victim and that they've done bad things to me and I don't have any issues going on inside of myself, you're always going to feel a sense of pain or suffering because of a limited perspective. In other words, information that you haven't gained access to is literally keeping you stuck in a state of feeling awful, a state of suffering. So understanding human nature, as ugly as it is, and that's an old projection of mine, that it's ugly because it causes some sort of suffering. It's actually not ugly when you transcend the old perceptions and you then begin to accept human nature for what it is, in the same way that when you see a dog urinating up a lamppost, you don't condemn the dog as disgusting or vile or wrong or bad. We need to be able to really start to expand our awareness. So you can see a bad guy acting out or a bad woman acting out, and you can realise that they're acting out pain. They're acting out their upbringing onto the world, and even though it causes suffering, it doesn't fundamentally make them bad people. Are you a narcissist? I guarantee that every single one of you out there listening to this will say, I am definitely not a narcissist. I am absolutely not a narcissist. And if I say to you, do you know anyone who's a narcissist? You'll all probably say, yeah, I've met this person, that person was a narcissist. They hurt me. Without you really knowing of how many times you've unconsciously hurt people in your life based on the fact you wanted things to be a certain way. You wanted a certain person to give you a certain something, whether it be love, whether it be some sort of material object, whether it be time or commitment. And when they didn't give you that, you got upset and you began to project out pain, which was either disassociating from that person, hurting that person verbally with actions or words. So the incredible thing is, or even doing a YouTube video talking about how awful narcissists are, incredible thing is we're all narcissists. Understand more about our human nature. The more we understand about it, the more we can transcend. The more we can unite and come together through our differences, rather than looking at our differences and being unconscious that we're something separate from that, we're something better than that. So take care, everybody. Thank you for watching.